The alley was cold. Not just from the bite of winter air, but from the silence. The kind of silence that wraps around someone when the world stops noticing them. In that alley, hidden behind crates of spoiled vegetables and cardboard boxes, a boy huddled beneath a torn blanket. His name was Samir. At 11 years old, Samir had mastered the art of becoming invisible. He had to. The streets were not forgiving. He scavenged during the early mornings and vanished before the sun brought crowds. His ribs pressed against his skin like sharp truths. His eyes had forgotten what hope looked like. On most days, hunger sat in his stomach like an animal with claws. And yet, he waited, every afternoon, outside a small bakery that smelled like everything he couldn't have. Raymond's Bake Shop. It wasn't the fanciest place. In fact, it was small, worn out, and tucked between a locksmith and a tea stall. But it was warm. And that warmth drifted out of the vents with scents of cinnamon, butter, and sugar. Samir never begged. He just stood, watching through the window, letting the smells feed his imagination. One day, as the sun dipped low, painting the street orange, the door creaked open. A man stepped out. Apron smudged, hands dusty with flour, eyes kind but cautious. "You been out here all week?" the man asked. Samir froze, then nodded. The man held out a small roll of bread, still warm. "Take it." Samir hesitated. Then, slowly, he reached for it like it might disappear. He bit into it, and for the first time in weeks, he tasted kindness. The man didn't ask questions, didn't scold him. He just said, "Come by tomorrow. Same time. I might have more." That was the beginning. Every afternoon, Samir showed up. And every afternoon, Mr. Raymond, the baker, handed him a small something, a roll, a bun, a leftover piece of cake. But more than food, he gave Samir something no one else had offered: consistency. One evening, as Samir sat on the steps eating quietly, Mr. Raymond sat beside him. "You've got eyes that have seen too much," he said. Samir didn't reply. "You ever bake before?" Samir shook his head. "Want to learn?" Samir looked up. The question itself was a gift. Like someone had pulled open a curtain and let in a sliver of sun. From then on, Samir started coming in early. He swept floors, washed trays, learned how to knead dough and roll it gently between his palms. Mr. Raymond taught him everything. Not just baking, but business, patience, and the sacred art of feeding souls, not just stomachs. "Food isn't just survival," Mr. Raymond would say. "It's memory, emotion. It's saying, 'I see you,' without words." 2 years passed. The streets still whispered threats. Hunger still lived around the corner. But inside that bakery, Samir built a world of warmth and rising dough. One morning, as he opened the shutters, he noticed Mr. Raymond coughing harder than usual. He looked paler, thinner. "Just a flu," the old man insisted. But it wasn't. Weeks later, he was gone. No long goodbye. No final words. Just a note left behind, sealed in a flour-stained envelope addressed to Samir. Asterisk, to the boy with hollow cheeks and a full heart. "This bakery is yours now. Feed them the way I fed you. And never forget, kindness doesn't end. It rises." Asterisk. Samir was barely 13. He stared at the keys for hours, feeling the weight of something far heavier than metal. The bakery almost died after that. Suppliers pulled out, unsure about a child running things. Bills piled up. The first few days, Samir tried to do it all alone. He barely slept. Burned loaves. Forgot to order eggs. Customers trickled in out of loyalty, but not enough. And then, one morning, the health inspector came. He looked at the dusty shelves, the overworked boy behind the counter, and shook his head. "This isn't sustainable," he said. "We'll have to shut you down." Samir didn't cry. He just nodded, too tired to fight. But as the man turned to leave, a woman stepped into the bakery. She was in her late 20s, dressed simply, holding a small girl in her arms. "You're not closing this place," she said. The inspector frowned. "Ma'am, I grew up with Raymond's bread. My daughter had her first birthday cake here. This boy, he's not just running a bakery. He's keeping a legacy alive." She placed a crisp bill on the counter. Triple price for one honey roll. She turned to the inspector. "Let the town decide if this bakery deserves to stay." Word spread like wildfire. By afternoon, a line curled around the block. People brought flour, eggs, milk, whatever they had. Some baked with him. Others cleaned. A retired chef stepped in to help with technique. A lawyer helped sort permits. The town rallied, not for a business, but for what the bakery meant. And Samir rose to meet it. Over time, the bakery wasn't just saved, it transformed. Samir expanded it into a community kitchen by night, offering free meals to the homeless, children from shelters, and elderly who couldn't cook. He started a small wall where people could pay it forward, buy extra items for those in need. He hired 2 orphans who reminded him of himself. He named one of the ovens Raymond, so his mentor would always be there. The story reached newspapers, then local television, then the internet. Boy who was once fed now feeds hundreds. Offers came. Interviews. Donations. Everyone wanted a piece of the miracle. But Samir stayed grounded. He refused sponsorships that came with conditions. Refused franchising. He didn't want chains. He wanted change. One rainy night, a boy about 9 walked in, muddy, shivering, quiet. Samir saw himself in that child like a reflection in cracked glass. He handed the boy a warm roll. The boy hesitated. "How much?" Samir smiled. "Cost me nothing. Cost you nothing." The boy ate like it was his first meal in days. "Come back tomorrow," Samir said. That boy, Arjun, became Samir's first apprentice. Followed by another. And another. Samir launched Project Flourish, a program to teach baking and life skills to kids from the streets. Every graduate could either work in the bakery or open a community kitchen in their own neighborhood. But it wasn't just about feeding mouths. It was about restoring dignity. Each kitchen was required to let customers eat first and pay if they could, afterward. No bills. No shaming. No asking. Because hunger was never a crime. A wealthy businessman once asked to buy the brand for millions. Samir refused. "Why?" the man asked, stunned. "Because I'm not selling bread," Samir replied. "I'm sharing something that saved me. That's not for sale." Years passed. The bakery grew, not in size, but in impact. Samir, now in his 20s, was invited to speak at humanitarian summits. He met presidents, celebrities, influencers. But he always returned home, apron tied, flour on his hands, helping a child learn to roll dough. He became a symbol, not of fame, but of what can happen when one person chooses to care. One day, a frail woman walked into the bakery. She looked around, confused, then locked eyes with Samir. Her voice cracked. "Samir." His heart stopped. His mother. The orphanage had lost her in paperwork. She had spent years searching. She had no idea if he was alive. Sanaa, one of his earliest volunteers and now his closest friend, had helped track her down quietly, wanting the moment to be real, not orchestrated. They stood there, mother and son, both trembling. No words could capture that reunion. But the tears said enough. Later that night, Samir stood on the bakery's rooftop, looking down at the street glowing with lanterns. Music floated through the air. Children played. Volunteers served food beside murals of bread and blooming flowers. Next to him, Arjun leaned on the railing. Taller now. Confident. "We've served over 10,000 meals this year," Arjun said. Samir nodded. "It's not just about the food," he replied. "It's about being seen, being known." They stood in silence for a moment. Then Arjun asked, "You ever think Raymond knew this would happen?" Samir looked at the stars. "I think he just hoped I'd survive." The next morning, Samir found a letter slipped under the bakery door. No stamp. No name. Just a note. Asterisk, you gave me food once. Years ago. Now, I run a bakery in Brazil. Because of you. Because of Raymond. Asterisk. Thank you for keeping the fire burning. L asterisk. Samir folded the letter gently, placed it in a box with dozens of others just like it. Proof that what started with one roll of bread had become a global echo of grace. Today, if you walk down that alley where Samir once slept, you won't find crates or broken dreams. You'll find murals of smiling children. You'll find a plaque on the wall. He was hungry. He was fed. He fed others. The cycle was broken. And beneath it, a single word etched in gold. Flourish.